Former NFL star and Super Bowl champion Benjamin Watson is calling on the pro-life movement to build up a culture of life that supports families in the wake of our nation's record low birth rate. In an opinion piece for Newsweek, Watson writes, quote, "The alarming trend in our nation's birth rate illustrates that being pro-life has to be about changing our culture at large. Abortion is a big piece of the puzzle and a grave moral evil that threatens the family. But the broader problems we face as a society run deeper still. The pro-life cause has to face these cultural trends head on and bear witness to the fundamental value, extreme importance, and incredible beauty of children and family life." Now on Skype, we're joined by Benjamin Watson, a former Super Bowl champion and current vice president of strategic relationships with Human Coalition, and his beautiful wife, Kirsten Watson, who serves as executive editor of Mom Life Today. They have 7 children, and both are involved in the pro-life movement. Ben, I'd like to start with you. You wrote in Newsweek that we need a culture of life to address our declining birth rate. Can you expand on that? What does that look like?
Thanks, Catherine. Well, right now we are at a historically low numbers in the United States when it comes to our birth rate. Studies show that about 3.6 million children were born last year, and that is trending downward. And so it's problematic, I would say, on 2 fronts. Number one, from a cultural and just a country perspective, whenever you're talking about passing down the morals, traditions of any culture, it depends upon children. It depends upon parents being able to pass that cultural capital down to their children. That's how countries are strong. That's how neighborhoods are strong. That's how cities are strong. But then from a spiritual standpoint, the Bible talks a lot about the fact that children are arrows to be shot, and that, we have 7 children. We look at our children as tough as they can be sometimes as gifts from the Lord. And so when we talk about passing on the biblical values to our children, it's imperative that we encourage parents to have children and value the fact that they have been entrusted by the Lord to raise these children up in the admonition of Him.
Amen. Absolutely. You two were college sweethearts and married young in your early 20s, I believe. You now have 7 children. Kirsten, what have you learned in your journey as wife and mother, and what advice do you have to people who may be hesitant to get married and be open to life?
Yeah, I would say just follow God's plan. I think a lot of times when we think about our life and where it's going to go, we have a plan, and sometimes that changes. And I think that by us getting married in our early 20s, we took 3 years before we decided to make sure we say that we liked each other. And then we decided to start having children. And I think that it's part of a progression, obviously, but it's one that we feel we were being obedient to the Lord. And we've fallen in love. I mean, we fell in love, and that has grown over the almost 16 years that we've been married. So I would say to that person that if you have found the person that you feel God has given to you, has sent to you, to be obedient in marriage, and then also in having children.
That's so beautiful. You have a beautiful witness. I want to address another major pro-life topic right now, and that is the disproportionate maternal mortality rate for Black women. Just last week, the Los Angeles Times editorial board said it's time we confront that Black new mothers are dying at unacceptably high rates. They write that Black women in the U.S. are more than twice as likely to die from pregnancy-related conditions as other women. Kirsten, what's your reaction to that, and how do we in the pro-life movement confront this?
Yeah, it's unacceptable, and it's quite frankly very, very scary to know that is a group of people that I belong to. Having 7 children, giving birth at 7 different times, like sometimes in the ER, sometimes at home, sometimes in a hospital. Knowing that rate is so high, I mean, something needs to be done, and I just feel as though for Black women who are giving birth and having children, I mean, things need to happen to make sure care is not only happening when they're giving birth, but also before they give birth. What's happening at those meetings and those office visits when they're checking on the baby, checking on mom, and what's happening after the baby, post partum and post having the child, like what's going on? I think in any other situation, if that were the number that was happening, it was for the worst, something would be done. And absolutely knowing that, it's terrifying.
Absolutely. Ben, we have less than a minute left, but what are your thoughts? Why do you think we're seeing such a disparity in the maternal mortality rate? And does this bring us back to your original proposal? We need to do a better job at building a culture of life.
Well, we do need to do a better job at building a culture of life, but that's holistic. And I think specifically when you look at the maternal mortality rate amongst Black women, this is part of a larger conversation that so many people have been having over the last year when it comes to racial inequity. So many negative outcomes are affecting Black communities, not simply because of pathology of criminality or anything else like that, but because of the systemic issues that so many have brought up, from housing to economics to jobs to education. To health, all those sorts of things all rolled into one produce these sorts of outcomes. And like Kirsten said, if it was happening to another group, if it was happening to the majority culture, we'd be up in arms. But you hear story after story of Black women not been taken seriously when they've been in pain, when they've been struggling with different things, but it's part of a larger issue that we must address really as a culture of life, as a pro-life community, as we say from womb to the tomb. These things, all these things must be important to us.
Absolutely. We need to do better. Benjamin Watson, Kirsten Watson, thank you both. Thank you for your witness and your work.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Evan.